What's going on YouTube? It's Archer Bluth coming at you with another video, and it's long overdue. You're going to catch me painting for this one. I'm painting the Space Marine, and today I want to talk about FD Signifier going on President Sunday and AikoRulz' live stream to discuss a few things. Notably, I think it was his coverage of Max Landis and the issues with it. Debate on Shingeki no Kyojin. For the record, I'm going to at you in this as well, President Sunday. And I hope to hear your opinion here. But I think it is a mid anime and manga myself. It is fairly mid. Now, I don't hold the views FD holds. You do a good job addressing it. I'm going to send people your way, the 5 people that watch this video your way. But I will say this. FD Signifier, Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan is mid because the idea of the film and the manga itself, the premise is great. I think it just was executed poorly. And what I mean by that is it leans so heavily into tropes created by seminal works that created the tropes but have yet to be surpassed. Things like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Like if you look, you can see how heavily Isayama borrows from Anno in that series. The fact that the Titans, especially shifting Titans, but Titans have their weak spot at the nape of the neck. Shifting Titans have the pilot, I guess you can say, at the nape of the neck. It draws such a heavy connection with the entry plug for Avas and the entry chute sitting like at the base of the spine near the nape of the neck. Purely for accessibility reasons, but essentially you're sending it down the entry plug into the heart, or where the heart would be, the soul, the essence. Sorry. And as such, you're going from the spine in. You can't really get it from anywhere else. Nonetheless, that's a heavy lean on it. If you look at the character of Eren Yeager, you can see how heavily he draws from Misato, how heavily he draws from Shinji. If you look at Mikasa, you can see how heavily Ayanami Rei is drawn from, and how heavily Asuka is drawn from when it comes to the badassery and all that sort of shit. It just leans so heavily into those tropes, and they're executed better in other work. That I guess it may be my own bias, but I can't help but read those tropes into the film, and then it just draws me back to Neon Genesis Evangelion. And why watch Shingeki no Kyojin when I can watch NGE? You know what I mean? So I just don't watch it. And I don't really want to watch NGE. I'm a huge Neon Genesis fan. I don't want to watch Neon Genesis all the time. I actually agree with Anno in the sense that there are so many otaku that were fucking weird with this series and they couldn't just get over it. So I actually am one of the few people that likes the rebuild of Evangelion, especially 3.0 and 3.0 plus 1.0, more so than I enjoy Death and Rebirth, because it just provides an ending to the story rather than just kicking the cycle off again. So I enjoy just finishing the work, walking away from it. It was a tearjerker for me. I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was good. Provided the closure. Maybe I'm a basic bitch because I like closure. But nonetheless, those are my thoughts. The conversation then drifted to Shark 300 and the dogpiling that he faced last year. Now, I want to make it very clear, I don't defend what Shark did. I think what Shark did was silly as far as his use of a slur against another content creator within these spaces, especially on Twitter. I think he may have thought that himself because then he deleted the tweet. He was responsible enough to realize this could be used in the wrong way. Let me yeet it. And he yeeted it. The dogpiling still exists in those spaces. But nonetheless, that's just the backstory, right? And my thoughts on Shark's behavior and such. When it came to the discussion itself, there are a few videos that highlight this. I'll share both AikoRulz and President Sunday's the links to their videos, in the comment section for anyone to go and watch if they're interested in watching them. They're about 40 minutes to an hour apiece. Nonetheless, I think they did all right impressing FD. I think they did as well as you could, noting that if they pushed harder, which I wish they did, but at the same time, I recognize that there was the risk if they pushed harder, FD is just going to shut down and the conversation is going to drift into a different direction. So I think they did what they could to try and tease out FD's position and the inconsistencies in his position for people to make their own mind up. And that's fair enough. It's not their place to sit here and press him and talk him down on what he did wrong. And in that case, I say fair enough. It is what it is. I can sort of understand where they were coming from. I wish they pushed a bit harder, but that's sort of like if I had 3 wishes, what would I wish for sort of situation, right? Like a dream scenario. Nonetheless, when it comes to this topic, I need people to understand this, right? I can empathize with what FD is saying as far as his arguments here. They make sense to me. That's what I mean by I can empathize. The problem is that's not the argument being put forth. And this is what President Sunday touched upon, right? Yes, sure. It is like black people, it is up to black people to determine whether someone serves their interests or not. They're sort of like the final say, right? If that's, you want to distill it down and steelman it, that's the best way I can do it without getting too verbose and taking the remaining 15 minutes or 20 minutes up of this video. But, and for that space, that conversation to exist within black spaces. Here's the problem though. FD is not a black content creator. He isn't. He doesn't market himself as such. And that's the problem. The problem is he is marketing himself towards a progressive space. He said it himself. He was part of BreadTube and Cornbread Tube. BreadTube has been distilled and ossified from its original content, which was more anarchist in nature, if I remember correctly, towards one that is leftist. And there is a slight difference. Like anarchism has, like, it is a leftist ideology, fair enough, but this wasn't this wasn't content pertaining to anarchism or providing an anarchist lens. BreadTube has now moved towards the more socialist and communist sort of lens, if you want to look at it through that perspective. So it's sort of perverted what BreadTube was originally and ossified it into something completely different. Cornbread Tube is a derivative of BreadTube. It's just one that is catered more towards black audiences and black creators. The fact of the matter is, both of these spaces, by virtue of one existing within the other and the other existing as a medium for leftist discourse, are progressive. So, by virtue of that, FD, you're not operating within black spaces, especially on platforms like YouTube, where Foreign Man in a Foreign Land's video essay still sits, where that allegory with which he refers to Shark as a trash panda is still up for people to watch today, upon last checking. Where Soul Bunny's video essay, the white leftist industrial complex, which actually has some good points in it. I mentioned that in my original coverage, but that video got removed. But that is still up today. And then when we go to Twitter, a platform which has, over the last couple of years, especially since Elon Musk took over it, has become increasingly white supremacist, racist, transphobic, homophobic, and has become a cesspool for Nazi talking points and Nazis. You and your buddies, not you explicitly, I'm talking about your buddies, the Cornbread Tube space, have not only posted anti-misogynist viewpoints like endless cemeteries, critique of Patrick Mahomes, his wife, and his child, and basically condemning that and saying that's disgusting. I would never want my bloodline to be tainted like that. That is a white supremacist talking point, by the way. That is almost every racist white father out there, when their daughter brings home a black boyfriend, that's exactly that's the viewpoint they hold. That's racist. But not only that, you, and again, I'm talking about other people, your ilk have dogpiled him, called him a racial slur where it's not warranted, and therefore given racists more credence to continue using racial slurs. This is the point. You're not in black spaces. That was progressive spaces. President Sunday touched on this. To his credit, he did, but he jumped off it a little bit too soon. And again, I'm going to at you, President Sunday. If you watch this far into this video and you disagree, feel free to raise it. But I do personally think you could have pressed a little bit harder on this. The issue is when you are black and you're a progressive, especially within the sphere of leftist YouTube and the online left, your blackness takes a second seat. Because there are other demographics and other marginalized peoples who are going through it tougher, first and foremost. Second of all, if you were to go in with your blackness first, you generally fall into the trap of special pleading, the double standards that we cannot abide by as progressives. I've said this in previous videos, but if you want to be a progressive or tell a progressive from someone who's reactionary, the basic litmus test is whether someone has an uncompromising belief and pursuit of equality and egalitarian outcomes. And if it's uncompromising, that means it needs to be consistent. As you can see with me, I'm willing to be consistent and not compromise on the racist behavior exhibited by black content creators, by trans content creators, by gay and lesbian and bi and non-binary content creators. I'm willing to do the same for Asian content creators, African content creators, and white content creators. I have a bar. If you're not meeting that fucking bar, you're not a progressive to me. That's it. And if you're not meeting that bar and you're a conservative, you deserve every piece of criticism that I'm getting and going to send your way. And I'm going to formulate it in a way with which you can't turn around and say it's bad faith. This is the issue. And the fact that you're sitting there and you're saying, I don't agree with it, but I get why they did it, without understanding the fact that it is wrong, not because it's unwarranted, it's wrong because it exists within an environment that further undermines the ability for progressives to get progressive outcomes. I don't have an issue with racists in black communities because they're black. I don't give a fuck. I'm black. I have issues with racism in black communities because it's racism. I don't want racism. I don't want to experience racism. I'm not interested in perpetuating racism. So why in the fuck would I tolerate it when it comes from people who have the same melanin concentration as me? It doesn't make sense. I don't understand why this double standard should exist. So, that's my rant. My rant is, if we want to be proper progressives, if you want to stop being a terminally online leftist and be an actual leftist, you kind of got to cut the bullshit and call the bullshit out. I have all the pride in the world that I can call the bullshit out because I don't tolerate racism. I didn't tolerate Shark's original, term that he used for Jaya, I think it was, that rhymes with egress. I think that was horrible. I think it's disgusting. I'm glad that Shark sort of came to that thought, but I wish he never posted it in the first place. That post, though, doesn't warrant, all the other black content creators who say that they're progressive to somehow forget the fact that they're no longer operating within a black space and commence dogpiling you in a manner that's still up to date and that was still co-signed by a white content creator, a white progressive content creator, Jesse Gender, co-signed the picture of picture of Steven from Django Unchained depicted as Shark, basically. The precedent that sends to a racist that sees us is, oh, look at these, insert slur here, can't even coalesce together to hold a coherent argument. I wish we brought back the days that they were slaves. I wish we did X, Y, and Z that subjugated them. That is the mentality these people have when you watch it. I know it because I've seen that shit. We've heard Ben Shapiro sit here and go dip into this bullshit whataboutism. Generally speaking, though, the whataboutism is about unwarranted and unrelated bullshit. This time you just gave him the ability to connect the dots because you're too stupid to realize that what you're doing is irresponsible. So, I want to say this, and I'll say this one more time. We're 16 minutes in. I want to wrap it up soon. People within Cornbread Tube, you either shape up or ship the fuck out of the progressive space. That's the best way to put it. Be responsible with your platforms. I've said this in so many videos. Be better. Be responsible with your platforms and understand that you can't treat this like the barbershop. If that's what you want to treat these spaces as, you know, I've been to a barbershop before. We say some spicy shit in barbershops. It is what it is. You can either treat it as the barbershop and drag everyone down into a realm that's more reactionary, or you know what? You can actually join the fight for progressivism and to get progressive outcomes and start policing yourselves a little better. Start upholding the ideals of progressivism, which is, as I've said before, an uncompromising pursuit of equality and egalitarianism. It means you have to be intolerant of intolerance in all of its forms. I hope that sinks in. Either way, that's my rant done. We're 17 minutes in. This was originally 25 minutes because my undiagnosed ADHD and lack of focus drifted off into segues. That's it. I hope you all watch this video to its full. I hope you all sit down and reflect and listen to this point, no matter how many people watch this video. And that point, again, is that racism is not to be tolerated in any form within progressive spaces. I don't give a fuck if someone deserves it. Like, look, I understand the use of, like, labeling someone an Uncle Tom. Like someone like a Candace Owens or a Thomas Sowell. It's an easy way for someone to depict it. I think you should really stop at that. You know, like instead of using the C slur or using the house slave and the equivalent of house slave, I'm not going to repeat it on here. I don't really want to. I've done it enough. It makes me very uncomfortable using that term because I know it's a term that would be weaponized against me by white racists and has been used against me by white racists before. I've dealt with this shit in person. It's disappointing to see that we are, as progressives, willing to tolerate this because it sets a bad precedent. And I thought we were above it. So I hope, moving forward, that people are willing to criticize bad behavior that occurs within this space. And that's all encompassing. Criticize Keffels, criticize Vosh for their bad behavior because they've engaged in bad behavior before. But be concise, clear, and lay out the evidence properly. Don't just clip chip them because you don't like them and turn around and say, see, they're racist. It doesn't work that way. If your argument falls apart under even the smallest amount of scrutiny, it's a shit argument. Reformulate. And the same thing with Shark. You know, Candace Owens' tactics and vibes. I mean, as much as Soul Bunny made good videos, they're all undermined by that sort of argument towards Shark because it just doesn't hold true. All Shark is doing is calling out bad behavior. That's all he did with Cat Black. It wasn't preferential. like he said, what Vosh did was wrong too. And I'm not caping for Shark. I'm just laying the facts out. That's exactly what he said. And then he said, look, all that aside, it's a bad look if you get up on a public platform and air out the DMs that you had. And in doing so, sexually harass him, because that is sexual harassment. And that would get you fired from a job. So just bear that in mind. Be easy, be safe as per usual. Again, like I said, I hope people watch this. Feel free to provide any thoughts, criticisms, like any thoughts that you might have that don't align with mine. Feel free to share them, and I'm more than happy to explain myself as well. I'm probably not going to agree with you because I think that, consistently speaking, I'm on the right side of this, but I'm happy to entertain the debate and explain to you why I think I'm right and you are incorrect. And maybe we can come to an understanding off the back of that. But nonetheless, note, this isn't me trying to drum up engagement or get clout. My channel's not monetized. I don't give a fuck about it. Feel free to subscribe, comment, and all that shit. Really, I'm just after the comments because this allows me to elaborate myself in a video form instead of writing War and Peace. And you can react to my thoughts as I say them, and then I can digest that and react to your thoughts within the comments. It's to open up discourse. So feel free to post a comment in there. You don't even have to fucking subscribe. I don't care. But nonetheless, be easy, be safe, like I said before. And just remember, like with progressivism, we're here to fight for everyone's equality. And as such, there are just certain bare minimums that we have to meet. Some of these people within these spaces don't meet these bare minimums, and we sort of let them fly under the radar, and I don't think that's the right way to go about it. See you all later. Bye-bye.